You know, I expected to see a lot of different ships, but I'll admit, one of the things that I did not foresee coming was a CONCORD destroyer. And well, as usual, it is time to take a look at the new ship. This is the Allegiance, the CONCORD faction destroyer, or as it's currently called, the Executioner, but that's a typo. This is the Allegiance, that's the name of this ship. I'll admit, I love how this thing looks. It looks incredible. One of the prettiest hulls that we have in the game at the moment, I would say. And definitely does remind me on some aircraft, that's for sure. But let's take a look at the trait description. Raw bonus plus 100% merit for repelling pirates, minus 40% insurance claim price, plus 6 seconds damage control activation time, a cloaking device lock delay. It can fit core tops. There is a cloaking device activation delay as well. It can fit large torpedoes. This is one of the only ships, only destroyer type ship that's able to do that. Basically, this is a fusion between bombers and between destroyers, frigates. This thing is overall a very unique ship. Has all sorts of different abilities. It can also open a sino, so it's a fusion between covert ops ships as well. This thing is, when you look at the stats, a little bit on the crazy side, that's for sure. It has bonuses on pretty much every weapon type, including a large torpedo bonus, which will be used today. So overall, looks honestly interesting on paper. 5 high slots for medium slots, 5 low slots, 3 combat and 3 engineering rigs. I think this is the only destroyer with 5 low slots currently. It can do a shield or armor tank, has a decent recharge of 255 seconds, although some of the stats are not displayed properly, as you will see. Even the damage control doesn't seem to get the 6-second bonus, but the effect should be there though. And the overall stats of this ship are, generally speaking, very, very nice. Not bad at all. A very interesting little ship to fly, that's for sure. So let's take a look at the build. Now, I would say you can use any weapon system that you want, from small to large torpedoes. I personally will use this ship with torpedoes. I have some nefarious ideas with it, involving assault battlecruisers and sniper battleships. More on that in one of the next videos probably. It can fit a bomb launcher. I have the repair module, although with this current build I lack power grid, but that will be solved down the road in this video. This is kind of a tanky build, very similar to what I have on the Enforcer, kind of inspired by the Enforcer. You can make this ship a DPS or a tank. That's honestly up to player preference at this moment. I think the next execution, or the next destroyer that I'll fly, the next Allegiance that I will fly, will be a DPS ship with torpedo launchers, and will be used in a very similar way to how I use the bombers. A bomber destroyer, or whatever the name or classification can go for this little ship. It's definitely not the fastest. That's one of the things that I don't like about CONCORD ships. They're not the fastest, but they definitely do have a very nice tank. 78 and 87% resistance. If you go with integrations with this ship, you can balance this out. You can easily even enhance the overall tank even more, so you have a lot of flexibility when it comes to tank. It repairs 888 armor every 3.14 seconds. This can be vastly improved. You can get this up to, depending on the nanocore of course, well, in the future when you get a nanocore for this ship obviously, but theoretically 1.5 to 2000 every 3 seconds, yeah, is doable with this ship, although you would have to have some expensive integrations for it. Definitely does feel a little bit different from the Enforcer. With the Enforcer you can easily go with a large armor repair build or a dual medium armor repair build, and that thing can get some really broken repair stats, and it can be ridiculously tanky. Same thing could potentially be applied for this ship, but for that you would have to change the build quite a bit. So I said I'll use torpedoes, and here we have the torpedo executioner build. Honestly, I think in this game this is the first time I've ever had something like this. This is a very unique ship for sure. Able to fit large torpedoes, a bomb launcher, a clocking device, a CovOps clocking device, and special modules. Yeah, this old ship definitely is unique, and now I have all the modules active. With the torpedoes I actually have a lot more power available, which is funny, but again, depending on the situation, depending on what you want to do with the ship, you can use the small weapons if you like. Now, yes, you can fit a CovOps clocking device, and now this little ship is ready to go and, I guess, catch sniping ships. Basically, if you catch a sniping ship at 0, orbit at 0, they're dead. They're pretty much very dead because they will not be able to hit you. Of course, I will probably tweak my build a little bit to make that work. Maybe even a small capacitor battery will be involved there, because you will not get hit by a sniping ship, so you can just orbit at 0 and avoid all incoming damage. There's definitely a lot of other options that you can go with when it comes to the low slot and medium slot modules, if you prefer to use the torpedo launchers. Full DPS works. Also a tanky slash DPS build, something in between, also works. A dual propulsion build also could potentially work. After all, you do have, although I would say a dual propulsion build is not necessarily needed, because you can tackle immediately after the cloaking. Again, something very unique to bombers, very unique to Sister of Eve ships. They can do that, and CONCORD ships also have that ability, with the exception of the Marshal, which doesn't have a CovOps clocking device, but the Enforcer and the Pacifier and the Execution and the Allegiance now do have that ability. So in that aspect, yeah, they're definitely unique ships. Can you do a shield tank? Well, yes, you can. Again, at the end of the day, it really depends what you have, what works best for you. A passive or active shield tank will work. A passive or active armor tank will work, but for passive tanking I would prefer shield more because it can regenerate. For active tanking I would prefer armor more because it's much easier on a capacitor, and with this ship it's still a smaller ship, so the medium armor repair will consume quite a bit of capacitor, and it will still run much longer than a shield booster, because the shield booster does eat quite a bit of energy in order to recover shield. But for a passive tank, those shield generators will do really well, or the titanium plates will also do really well. Again, 5 low slots on a destroyer is going to allow you to do a lot of different things with this ship. Now, why is it called the Executioner? That's just a typo, I guess, that they made. They acknowledged it and it will be fixed. But yeah, this is the Allegiance. I'm going to call it the Executioner a couple of times from just out of mistake, but it is the Allegiance, just to make that clear. And this is how a dual propulsion build would look. If you want to use a dual propulsion build, you can, although on the ship I don't really see the reason and need to do that, because you can just tackle at 0 anyway or within range. You can always approach the target while being cloaked and just decloak and tackle when in the desired range. So let's undock and let's see how this build would look. What would I prefer? I'm personally torn between, again, the tanky build and the glass built with the torpedo launchers, basically exclusively to be used against long range ships. And that's what I would do with the Allegiance myself. You can, of course, do any build that you like, but I personally prefer to have tanky ships or something along the lines of a sneaky ship for specific purposes, like the Stratos, for example. I can guarantee you there's nothing more satisfying than catching a sniper with a close range ship, because they will be unable to do anything unless of course they're stabbed. You will have a limited option with the medium slots. Out of the 4 slots, 3 will be used for modules, and the 4th one is basically special for the special module. You cannot fit the defense tactical module, unfortunately, or the siege or the citadel tactical module. You are limited to the very few modules that you can install from the trade description of the ship, which is fine, I guess. The repair module is more than enough, honestly. It does give a very decent boost, and with the current build, I am able to fit a medium armor repairer. I also have a very good small Nosferatu. A dual medium fit is possible, but for that you would have to have a generally more expensive build. Although this thing by itself is pretty expensive. I don't know what the insurance cost is, because right now I can't look at the combat log to see the IP price, because the combat log seems bugged for some reason. But depending on the build, should be possible to do a dual medium build actually, if you have the right skills for it and rigs for it. But it would cost a lot, so I just decided to go and do something a bit more cheaper. Usually it works. The cheaper builds nowadays are not too bad. They will get the job done, that's for sure. I started to prefer the cheaper builds for my ships, and kind of the thing with the cheaper builds, I'm trying to sell the Balgorn, but unfortunately not doing well. I'm not surprised, because you do have the Azazel, and why would anyone buy a Balgorn when they can buy an Azazel? The Azazel is simply better, so I think I might be stuck with that ship unless I go and yeet it at a dormant or something. Although I don't like to yeet ships in dormant realm just like that. It's not something I do. But I don't know what I have no idea what I'll do with that ship. Okay, let's see how this build would look. Well, the resistance is definitely a little bit lower, not too lower, but we can definitely raise that with integrations, and this is with the medium armor repair with the C-type. It repairs 1000 armor every 3.14 seconds. Not bad at all. Again, could be much better. Okay, let's go and see what else I can do. It's still very interesting that this destroyer has 5 flow slots. I actually expected it to have 4. Most other destroyers have 4, I believe. It's been a while since I used one of these ships. Luckily, I did skill for them, because I kind of expected... Initially I expected Tech 3 destroyers to be introduced with the whole modular ship thing going on at the time, but that was cancelled, and I think I never really reset my destroyer skills. They're still the same. The small weapon skills, that's something I need to improve, but for missiles I should be good. Now, a DPS build. Ballistic controls easily fit, and just as I say that, the third one is not going to fit, but that can easily be solved if I remove a bunch of unnecessary high meta level medium slot modules. However, in this case I'll just slap one armor hardener, and this could work, I guess. This could work. And for PvE, I wouldn't use this ship for PvE myself. I don't think it's quite suitable for that content. Maybe you have some of the newer PvE content that this ship can take advantage of. Kalaval Expanse, for example. This ship will love that place for sure. But for the ordinary PvE, I don't really think that this ship will do... well, I mean, it will do well. It's just a lot of mist. All of its potential will be underutilized, but let's actually have some fun with this ship, and let's do a little target practice. So, can this ship act like a bomber? Oh yes, it can. It's honestly a very weird ship, since I don't fly bombers, but actually I do have a bomber. I don't fly that often. That's the more accurate thing I should say. But I do plan to fly the destroyer here for, you know, for fun, for the more long-range targets, and we have a nice target practice, a Caracal Navy. Let's see how this will work. Now this is the tank build. Tank build. It has one ballistic control repairer. It's cloaky, of course. Overall, all of the builds that I showed earlier, I believe. Okay, there's the Caracal. It's a decent warpin. Going to orbit at 0, and let's go after the Caracal. You cannot launch the bomb in low sec, by the way. That's one thing that I forgot to mention. The bomb launcher will not work in a low sec. That's only for null sec, for now at least. And I definitely am not going to launch a bomb in low sec. Sounds like a very bad idea to do so. Well, 0 kilometer orbit from the Caracal, doing good damage. Now when you're launching torpedo launchers at medium-sized targets, you need to make sure that they are slowed down so that they are unable to speed tank your missiles, because the large torpedo launchers are designed to be used for the more heavier battle cruisers and battleships and above. For a cruiser, the large missiles here feel a little bit like overkill, but they're doing good damage, so I am not going to complain too much about that. I'm able to speed tank the medium missiles from the Caracal. That's what I'm saying, the long range builds will be easy targets for the Allegiance. And the Caracal is destroyed, or yeah, there it is, the Caracal is destroyed. Okay, that's a nice little target practice run. I guess the tradition continues. Every time I fly and play a new ship, it seems that a target practice just appears.
Warp drive
It's been the thing with the Pacifier. I think the same thing happened with the Enforcer. Well, it didn't happen with the... What was the name of that ship again? It didn't happen with the Marshall. Well, not a... I guess market value. The risk value of that target wasn't too bad. But the build, that's that's where I was a little bit confused at, but in any case. So, my overall, I mean, so far, my overall thought about the Allegiance. It's a fun ship. When you look at the stats of this thing, I think at first it could feel overwhelming, honestly, and I don't really blame the player when they look at the stats and see, oh wow, this thing can do a lot of things. This ship does have a lot of different playstyles incorporated into it. You can pretty much do whatever you like with the ship, really. And the overall build that you go with should mostly suit your own playstyle. In my case, since I like to hunt around in low sec a lot, the ship will most likely be suited for that purpose and will have a build that will benefit that type of gameplay with the ship. One thing that I didn't really do a lot lately, that's going into Kalevala Expanse, which is basically for smaller ships who have different regions where you can go to. Right now, those systems are infested with Asteros because of Bombard and because of the way Asteros work. I personally blame the bombard tactic implant being broken, and that's just a fact. I mean, if there is one implant that's completely broken beyond any sanity right now, I would say it's the bombard, because it gives so much damage that you really have a lot of trouble tanking that in smaller ships, and basically Astor can one-hit most of the smaller ships with ease, with a decent leveled bombard implant. I think this ship might change that a little bit, although I have to say I'm not a fan of having to introduce a new ship to technically solve a problem. And I wouldn't even call the problem solved. The problem will be solved when the bombard is nerfed. And that is coming from someone who actually has a golden bombard implant. I have no idea what level it is, 30, 35, 40, I have no idea. I forgot to look, I always forget to check the level on that implant. But it's a high level bombard implant, golden implant, and after using it, it just basically confirmed everything I thought about it, that it's just simply way too strong and that it simply needs to be significantly nerfed. Now, when I say significantly nerfed, not just that implant, I would nerf all implants to get the DPS back in track again, because everything has way too much DPS for, not just for my taste. That's what players have been telling me for a while, for a couple of years now. Players have been telling me that high DPS is all over the place, not just one implant but all of them, most of them. So if anything, a DPS reduction needs to happen to get things back into normality again, at least on the DPS part of the game. There's obviously a lot of other things that need to be changed, but right now one of the more critical things is definitely the stupidly overblown DPS that these ships can pull off. And right now every drone related weapon system is still, I would say, on top. I mean, there is a reason why I have a Dominic's Navy with very expensive offense and integrated drones. If there's a ship that I just want deleted, basically, if there's a expensive ship or a salty ship or something like that that I just need to destroy as fast as possible, I take the Dominic's Navy, because there's no other ship that can pull that stun off. That thing can do it. And it's not just one Dominic's Navy. Oh no, we have a bunch of them ready at all times. So we do have some of the nastiest ships, nastiest battleships when it comes to DPS, because of the bombard tactic implant. And I even stopped fitting even that one adaptive hardener on the Dominic's Navy. I just use full DPS now. It just wrecks. It has insane DPS. I think its hot DPS is close to 100,000 at the moment, including the nanocore that I have. So I think I reached cold super carrier level DPS with the Dominic's Navy. Didn't track that, but I think it's pretty close, because it gets about, I think, 30,000 DPS without the implant, and then with the implant it triples that. So yeah, that's just broken. No need to mention that twice, I guess. But yeah, the Allegiance is definitely a very interesting ship. I'm actually glad that these things don't have drones. Imagine if you could fit drones on these things. Imagine if you had like an option to choose weapon systems, and if you want drones, you lose 4 or 5 high slots, 4 high slots, and you get like 4 drone tubes. Imagine if that was possible. Or maybe I should shut up and stop giving ideas. Maybe that's what I need to do here. But all in all, very fun, cute little ship. I love this thing. It's actually going to be one of my main destroyers at one point when I buy a new one. When I buy a different one for a different purpose, that ship will be my main destroyer for combat, because it does tick all the boxes that I like in a ship. Is it cloaky? Yes, it's cloaky. Is it sneaky? Yes, it's sneaky. Can it act like a Stratios? Yes, it can. Does it have some very interesting DPS? Yes, it can. Yes, it has. So overall, a very interesting little ship, and just as with the Enforcer, the Allegiance, well, not this exact Allegiance, but when I buy a secondary one, a new one, that will become my primary destroyer for basically having fun in the game. I do see a lot of different utilities for this ship. I see the ship being, I mean, I think this is one of the very few destroyers that I actually want to fly all the time. It will have a lot of different usages, that's for sure. But, you know, with that being said, we are nearing the end of the video. Now, what do you think about the Allegiance? Do you like the ship? Do you dislike the ship? What would you change on it? And, you know, what do you think? What's the next possible upcoming ship that we might see? Now, we have a CONCORD destroyer, frigate, cruiser, battleship. I think a CONCORD battlecruiser might show up at one point, but we will see what will happen with that. But overall, I'm pretty satisfied with this ship. The ship is a bit expensive for my taste. That's one thing that I can complain about, the price on this thing, but overall it is definitely a very enjoyable little destroyer. I'm very happy that we actually did get a ship like this. I was surprised for sure. I think a lot of players have been surprised as well, but with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that, please stay safe, fly safe, as always. I'll see you next time.
Warp drive active.